Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Granblue Fantasy Relink, Endless Ragnarok. Now, this video is actually sponsored by Cygames, which I know is going to catch some people off guard on account of the fact that I usually don't do a lot of sponsored content because the stuff that I usually get offered are either video games that I don't play or products that I don't use, and I really don't see the point in taking sponsorships from those. However, when it came to Granblue Fantasy Relink, that's pretty much a no-brainer for me because I played this game a ton when it released in 2024. I played it solo, I played it with friends, I live streamed the crap out of this game, and there's a ton of content for the game already on the channel, and it's just a game that I really enjoyed. And even back then, I've always felt like, Granblue Fantasy Relink was underrated to the point where we weren't even sure as a community as to whether or not we were going to be getting an expansion to the game. And, it was a nice surprise to have a couple of months back when they announced Endless Ragnarok, which is going to be coming around on the 9th of July. That is going to be something that we're going to be diving into quite deeply when the time comes. But for now, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you can expect from Granblue Fantasy Relink if you have not played the game, because you can play the game right now on Steam and on PlayStation, and when Endless Ragnarok arrives, you're going to be able to actually play it on Switch too as well. But right now is actually one of the best points to jump into the game if you haven't played it yet, so that you'll be ready by the time the game releases in July to gain access to all of the content, the DLC, and all of that stuff. So, what is Granblue Fantasy Relink? So this is an action RPG. It has a mission-based structure, kind of like a Monster Hunter game to an extent, where basically you go to a quest counter, you accept the quest, you go and you do the quest, you get some materials, then you can upgrade your weapons, you can unlock new characters. That's kind of like where differences start coming in. This game has a multitude of characters that you can unlock, and whenever you are playing the game, you're always going to be playing in a party of 4. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean players, because you get to control a party of 4 NPCs, even though you're just controlling your main dude, but you get to equip and min-max your party members so that you basically make your own dream team to go and tackle all of the objectives that the game has. Now, the game is very much soloable all the way, but some of the later challenges when you actually start getting into the end game, the ultimate grinds and all of that stuff, that is going to become a little bit more challenging, and it is going to be a little bit easier with players, but it is still doable with NPCs if you really built them correctly and if you just like min-max them to the nth degree. And it is actually quite satisfying to go ahead and do that for those of you that enjoy min-maxing your little party of NPCs and getting all of that stuff done. Now, in the second part of this video, I'm actually going to be giving you guys a couple of tips that will hopefully smooth out your beginning experience with Granblue Fantasy Relink, but for now, I wanted to focus a little bit on Endless Ragnarok. So, what exactly can we expect from Endless Ragnarok? And they're describing this as a large-scale expansion, not unlike a Master Rank expansion for Monster Hunter, or for those of you OGs, like a G Rank expansion. So this is going to be something that's going to be bringing a lot of content. There's going to be new story content for the game. There's going to be new characters. They're also adding some much requested features by the community. One of those naturally being crossplay. So the game is going to feature full-fledged crossplay across all the platforms where the game is available. So you're going to be able to play with your Steam friends, you're going to be able to play with your PlayStation friends, and you're even going to be able to play with your Switch 2 friends. And by the way, Switch 2 also supports local co-op, so like the ad hoc functionality of the Switch 2, which is also really, really good. Now, besides new story, crossplay, and all of that good stuff, you're also going to have new playable characters. The ones that have been revealed so far are Beatrix, Eustace, Magliel, and Galanza. Now, an interesting thing is that both Magliel and Galanza were actually characters that were present in the original Granblue Fantasy Relink as boss fights. So now you actually get to play those characters for yourself and see what type of playstyle they're going to provide. In terms of Beatrix and Eustace, I don't really play the Granblue Fantasy game, which, for those of you that don't know, Granblue Fantasy is actually a mobile gacha game that they have, and Relink was just kind of like their entry into the console and PC space. where, you know, they were making an action RPG instead of the gacha, which, by the way, the actual game Granblue Fantasy Relink doesn't really have any gacha elements for the characters. Now, there are some random elements in terms of like gemstones that you get to upgrade your gear. They call them sigils. Those are random in the way that you acquire them, but there's also a little bit of a degree of control to some extent after you collect some of these gems and you kind of like upgrade them and whatnot. But there is a random element there. Beyond these new playable characters that we know of, because I'm assuming there's going to be more, we're also going to be getting new master traits. So there's going to be like a whole new progression system on top of the already existing progression system, which already had tons of traits. You're going to get new ones. There's also going to be summons, and this is a mechanic that we got to experience in the recent beta that they had. So basically, in between all of the stuff that you can do with your special skills, your attacks, your link attacks, and all of the other already really cool gameplay systems that we had, they're adding another system where you can kind of like summon something. And usually, some of these summons are actually some of the monsters that you fight, like, you know, the big eyeball monster that does the freezing thing. You can summon that and then kind of like freeze your enemies, and you actually get to control the monster itself. Like one of the more powerful monsters that we had access during the beta was straight up Rurikhan. So you just control Rurikhan and you just go ham on the enemy that you were fighting, which, as you can imagine, this is actually going to be really good whenever you have specific monsters that are weak to specific elements and you bring in a summon as well as a team of people that are equipped with the element that the monster is weak to, and you will be really able to pump out a lot of damage, which just gives you a lot of customizability in terms of the party that you're going to be fielding whenever you go and you take on some of these more challenging quests, which to me is a really, really cool thing. Now, besides summons, there's also going to be primal bursts. Now, I didn't fully understand what triggers a primal burst. I know that it's not available in every quest, very much like summons. Summons are only available on some of the more challenging quests of the game, so it's not meant to like, oh, I have a quest to go kill like 10 wolves. You're not going to bring a summon to that. You're not going to be doing primal bursts during that. But basically, the way that it worked in the beta was, you know, at certain points when you're doing your full chain burst, which for those of you that don't know what that is, it's like every character does their ultimate in sequence, because every character is like an ultimate ability that you can do. And if you do all of them in sequence, then you get like a special finishing attack, which is called a chain burst. Now, in Endless Ragnarok, you're going to be able to bring down primal bursts, where after you do your big chain burst, then Lyria, one of the characters, goes ahead and calls, you know, the primal, and boom, he just like lasers down the enemy even further, which is pretty friggin' cool. Just like really cool animation. You destroy everything. Basically more powerful chain burst attacks as well as summons, which is nice. Now, they're also introducing a brand new solo mode, which to me is a little bit unexpected, because a lot of the things that we were doing in the end game of Granblue Fantasy Relink, you would usually be better served by being in a multiplayer party. But I'm assuming that this is kind of like a side mode, because they also talk about how there's harder co-op bosses that are going to require Chaos tier gear. So all of those multiplayer challenges that you had in the base game are still going to be in Endless Ragnarok, and they're going to be even harder, more challenging. You're going to require better gear, better optimization of your characters. So all that stuff is still going to be there. But on top of it, they're also doing a new solo mode for the players that prefer adventuring solo, and they're calling this the Conflux, which the Conflux is apparently going to be some kind of like roguelike mode, because you're going to be able to have like special power-ups and so on and so forth, but we don't really know much more beyond that. That it's going to be like an endgame system. It's going to feature roguelike type gameplay, and it is likely going to give you a lot of really rewarding gear, is what I would expect. But yeah, these are some of the features that you can expect from Endless Ragnarok. Like I said, it's like a large-scale expansion. It's going to bring with it a whole ton of content. So now is actually one of the best times, if you are going to be playing either on Steam or on PlayStation, to jump in and get your save up to snuff, because, you know, this is an expansion and you're going to be able to import your save from the base game if you already put in like 100+ hours, like a lot of us did when the game came out in 2024. You're going to be able to just bring all that progress in and all the characters that you've already unlocked and bring those into Granblue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok. So now let's talk about some of the things for those of you that are starting fresh that you should keep in mind when you start your adventure in Granblue Fantasy Relink. Okay, so one of the most important things is going to be for you to focus on the main story campaign. And I understand that this is going to feel like pretty obvious advice, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because as you begin playing Granblue Fantasy Relink, the game is going to shower you with optional objectives. Things like upgrading your sigils, upgrading your weapons, unlocking additional crewmates, and maybe most importantly of all, completing a bunch of side quests on the quest board. And it's very easy for you to look at those side quests. They're going to give you a lot of objectives, like for instance, complete this quest in under 4 minutes, complete this quest while throwing a bomb and killing 2 people with a bomb. And there's all of these things that's very easy for a new player to get lost trying to complete all those things, particularly if you have a completist mentality like I had. I can tell you guys I spent way more hours than I should have very early in the game trying to optimize everything out of those beginning quests, but in reality it's going to be much more easy for you to do those after you've completed more steps in the main story campaign, because that is going to unlock further progression for your characters, and that is going to make you substantially more powerful so that you can then go back and do those side quests on the quest counter in a breeze. You can go and complete those side quests to get materials and all of that good stuff, but don't really waste too much time trying to get an S++ score on every single quest when you're just starting playing the game, because it's going to be much more satisfying if you engage with the story, which by the way is not going to be the most challenging thing early on. It's going to be fairly accessible, so you don't have to like really focus too much on min-maxing all the characters, and you can just like, you know, enjoy the story, enjoy the action, learn how to use your character and all of that good stuff without having to worry about like, oh no, I have to repeat this specific side quest 20 times until I can get the perfect S++ score, because until I see that, my brain doesn't allow me to move on. I know that that's a lot of my completionist mentality speaking, but that's just something that I personally went through when I was going through Granblue Fantasy Relink. So make sure to focus on your main story progression. There's always going to be a little yellow icon that's going to tell you where you have to go to continue on the next step of the main story quest, and really focus in on that when you are beginning. Next up, knowing your character. While I understand that early on in the game, it's not really going to be demanding to the point where you have to understand how your character works entirely to really just get through quests, I find it to be much more satisfying whenever I know how the combos of my character work and what I can actually do with that character in order to output as much damage as possible. And furthermore, once you actually finish the main story campaign and you start going into the harder difficulties, you're definitely going to want to know how your character operates so that you can squeeze as much damage as you possibly can out of it. Otherwise, you might not be able to finish some of the harder quests. So one of the easiest ways of understanding how a character works is to go ahead and practice. Now, very early into the game, I don't know, maybe after the third main mission quest, you're going to be able to enter the Grand Cipher, which is your airship. So once you enter Grand Cipher, you're going to see in a corner there's going to be a barrel called Sir Barreled, and then you can enter a practice mode with that character. From that moment on, if you go onto the main menu and you hit character details, it will give you like a couple of details as to how that character works, and then there's also a combo list that you can consult, and those are some of the things that you want to do. You want to do those combos so that you can kind of understand how the combat flows for that specific character. And beyond those combos, naturally you also have to practice like your link attacks, see if your character has follow-ups to link attacks, which is very important because different characters interact with link attacks in different ways, and figuring out how you can follow up from a link attack is going to be something that you want to do kind of like as second nature when you are playing these characters. To give you guys an idea about how different some of these characters play, I'm going to give you guys 2 examples of Gran and Vayne. So Gran is the main character. He is the captain. One of his mechanics is that he has a charged Y attack, which is his strong attack. And then he also has something that increases the effectiveness of his arts whenever you use combo finishers. So some of his combos include XXXY, and that will be like a combo finisher, and that is going to raise up how powerful you can get arts to become. So naturally you can instantly see here that the mechanics of Gran are going to be, okay, so I'm going to do a combo finisher, probably do like maybe 2 or 3 combos actually with finishers so that I get like those arts level 4 raises, then I'm going to cast a couple of arts. But that's not all, because your charge attack speed increases at the end of a combo. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and do like a regular combo, and then as you are doing the final hit of the combo, you're going to want to keep the Y button pressed, and that is going to cause your character to charge his charge attack faster, and that's going to enable you to deal a whole lot of damage, which in turn also is going to increase the frequency with which you will be increasing the damage of your arts. But that's kind of like the playstyle that you're doing, but that's not all. Some of the things that the game doesn't tell you, for instance, is that after you perform a link attack, the charge speed of your charge attack is also going to be increased. So after link attacks, you want to hold down on Y, and that is going to cause your charge attack to be faster. This is just to give you an idea of how it works for Gran. Then if you switch to another one of my characters that I really like, which is Vayne, the way that Vayne works is he has combo finishers as well, but his combo finishers are a little bit more elaborate. So the way that it goes is you do 3 attacks, then you press the combo finisher twice, and Vayne's going to do a little jump, and that's going to power up his special beatdown gauge. But it's not just when you do combo finishers, you also can do his Y attack after you perform link attacks, very much like Gran, but on top of it, you can also do it after you perform arts with Vayne. So ideally, you want to be cycling through your arts and following those up with combo finishers, which is going to really level up your beatdown gauge. Then Vayne has other mechanics, like whenever he does his strong attacks, so his combo finishers, or even his beatdown gauge, he's going to parry enemy attacks, so he effectively can tank a lot of hits while you're still dishing out damage. So as you can imagine, that's going to give you a completely different playstyle. And that is just some of the things that you're going to want to master in terms of how your specific character operates. There's also a ton of guides online if you really want to squeeze out every little bit of damage. I have quite a few of those guides in my channel here as well, at least for Vayne and the big fire guy, I forget his name, as well as for Eugen, which was one of my favorite characters that I played a ton of when I was playing the original Granblue Fantasy Relink. So I definitely would recommend that you guys figure out which character you're playing, how that character actually plays, because that's going to provide you with a much more meaningful experience when you are engaging with the game's combat, and it is also going to prepare you for the end game quests that are going to be significantly more challenging and are going to demand more of you. Now, another important thing when it comes to characters is that each character has a specific element assigned to them. So, for instance, the captain, Gran, he's going to be of the wind element. The character that I like, Vayne, is of the water element. Eugen is of the earth element, and Rurikhan is of the fire element, to give you guys just an idea of some of the different elements that are going to be available to you. And another important thing when it comes to elemental damage is that every enemy in the game is going to have a specific elemental weakness. And if you are struggling in a quest, or you're trying to inch out a bit more damage in a quest to try and, either get a higher score on the quest board or something like that, or getting an exclusive reward you can only get for completing certain side objectives, you might want to align yourself with the element that the enemy is weak to. So if an enemy is weak to light, you can see that in the quest counter. It will tell you what the specific weaknesses of each enemy are, and then you can align your party more towards that enemy. You can choose specifically party members that have that specific element to deal more damage. But another very important aspect of elemental damage is whenever you use a Skybound art, which this is your ultimate, it's the one where you press down on both analog sticks, the first character that does the Skybound art is going to be what the burst damage is going to happen at the end of the Skybound art. The big chain burst is going to be of the same element as that initiating character. So sometimes you might want to learn how to use a character that has a specific element in order to guarantee that you have the final hit of the chain burst be that specific element. I believe that in Endless Ragnarok, there's going to be some type of a system where you'll get a little bit more control over which character initiates, because you can have sometimes the NPCs initiating the Skybound art. But in base Granblue Fantasy Relink, it is a little bit more challenging, so you have to kind of try to make the best of whatever situation you end up getting in terms of elements, but you can't influence it. You can also direct characters to only do Skybound arts after you initiate your own Skybound art, but just be aware of enemy elemental weaknesses in case you want to really just squeeze out every bit of damage you possibly can. So this next one is a feature that I feel like a lot of us didn't really use to its full potential when we were playing through Granblue Fantasy Relink, and it is the wish list. So if you come up to the blacksmith, and let's say we're trying to forge a weapon, so we're going to go to forge weapons, we're trying to forge a weapon for Rosetta. Let's say I'm trying to forge Swordbreaker, and you have the materials list right there. But let's say, for instance, that I did not have enough Chieftain's Braids. And you might be wondering, where exactly do I get a Chieftain's Braid? You can go to details by pressing on X, and that is going to let you select a specific material, and then once you're there you can use Y or whatever happens to be your equivalent on keyboard and mouse or different controller, and that is going to access the wish list functionality, and then you can just add the Chieftain's Braid to your wish list. And then after you do that, you can go to the quest board, and it'll be a little bit easier for you to find which quest this particular material drops from, because it is going to mark it on the rewards of that quest. So we can go to undertake quests. Let's go into easy here, and let's just look at each of these quests. As you guys can see, nothing on rewards or in drop items for this one, nothing on rewards or dropped items for this one. But if we keep going, you're eventually going to get to like what is going to be the relevant quest. So in here, defeat the Goblin Warrior. As you can see, there's the mark right there of the magnifying glass on the Chieftain's Braid in dropped items as well as in rewards. So then you'll know, oh, if I do this quest, I'm going to get this material that I want for crafting that weapon. So if you really just fill up your wish list with all the materials that you need, it's going to make it a little bit easier for you to find which quests have the materials that you want. So this next one is also going to be something that a lot of us are likely going to forget while we're playing through Granblue Fantasy Relink, but there is a functionality in Lyria's journal that actually gives you additional materials as you are playing through the game. When you complete certain trophies or certain objectives, you can come over to Lyria's journal, and in there, if you go to the trophy sections, as you guys can see, there's a little treasure icon saying congratulations. This means that you have loot that you can go and get. So you can enter pretty much any of these, and then there's going to be an option there. If you press square, it's going to just go claim all. Boom. And as you can see, we just claimed like a bunch of fortitude shards, fortitude crystals, standard ruthenium, rafali, coins, and a bunch of other more stuff, right? So this is just something for you to keep up with. So every now and then in between quests, just come over to Lyria's journal and see if you have some additional materials to receive, because it might save you a little bit of farming. As you are playing through the game, you're going to notice from time to time that you're going to see some villagers that have requests for you. Usually these villagers will show up with an icon similar to this one, indicating that they have a quest for you. You can also locate these on the map by holding down on the right stick, and the map's going to pop up, and if there's more NPCs that actually have quests for you, you're going to be able to see them, and you're going to be able to walk up to them and pick up their quests. Once you complete those quests, you just come back to them and you turn them in. Now, the way that I usually do this is I just go around every town in between the different quests that I'm doing or whatnot, and just double check, oh, is there any like new things for me to pick up? Is there any new quests from NPCs? And I pick all of them up, but I don't specifically go out and do them. I just keep them active, and then I just go about my day doing whatever I feel like doing in the game, because usually they just end up getting completed by you just playing the game. So it's not something that I'm actively working towards. I just have them in the background, and they're still going to give you decent rewards. And then whenever you finish them, you can actually go up to the NPC and collect your reward. And here's an interesting thing. Let's say you're in a different spot of the town and you're trying to like, oh, I don't know where the NPC is. I don't feel like running around. You can actually go to the menu and you go to side quests. And as you can see here, a lingering regret is a reportable quest that I can go and report. And there's an option there if you press on A, and it just teleports you to the NPC. And then you can just talk to them, report the quest. That completes the quest. Boom, done. And you get your reward. This is how you get some of these silver keys that actually enable you to open some of the special chests that you have in town. And yeah, just keep up with these quests. Don't really focus too much on them. Eventually there will come a time where you're like, oh, I just feel like cleaning out my quests, and then you can go and do that. But for the most part, a lot of these just get automatically done by just having them in the background and playing the game normally without worrying too much about them. Another important detail of character progression are fate episodes. So if you go up to your quest counter, you're going to see something called a fate episode. And as you guys can tell, all of my characters have fate episodes undone. That's because this is a fairly fresh save and I haven't really gotten around to doing these yet. But Fate episodes are essentially these little story moments that give you more background details on each of these characters. But besides the story implications and stuff that you learn about these characters, which is pretty interesting if you like the story of the game and all of that good stuff, but besides that, there's actually a gameplay reason for doing these because it increases the power level of your characters. So for instance, whenever I do this prologue Fate episode, my character of Gran is going to get more stats. Then when we do episode 1, he's going to get more stats, and episode 2 even more stats, episode 3 even more stats, and then episode 4, I'm actually going to get an additional sigil slot, which is very important because sigil slots are how you get additional skills for your characters, and they become way more powerful. So these are very, very important, and completing as much of these Fate episodes as possible is going to be something that you're going to want to be doing in order to really max out your character's potential. Now, if you're not interested in the story, you can just go through the episodes and skip the cutscenes if that's not something that you want to engage in, and you still get the stats for those characters. So keep that in mind. Make sure to keep up with the Fate episodes for all the characters that you've been playing, because that is going to increase their damage substantially. It's going to increase their performance substantially, and it's another avenue of progression. Now, when you're playing through Granblue Fantasy Relink, it can be easy to get overwhelmed with the number of characters that you're going to be able to play, which I believe is like 22 characters. There might be more. I don't remember the exact number, but there's a lot of characters for you to unlock and play with. However, it's important for you to try and focus down on having like a main 4-character roster, because you'll want to min-max those characters at some point. So just see which characters you like the most. That's usually the way that I go. I don't really focus too much on like, oh, I need this character because it's super powerful or whatever. Usually I just focus on which characters I want, and that's one of the best ways of getting started. Then by the time you get to the end game, if you really need to power level a character, there are ways of doing that, so it's not too problematic. But as you are playing through, try to choose a character that you really enjoy playing, that you really like its mechanics, and then choose 3 of the characters that you feel like complement it or characters that you like. But try to keep your elements varied, unless you're target focusing a specific monster that you really want to get down and you need specific elements. But usually try to keep your elements varied. So like in here I have Vayne with water and Catalina with water, but in my main roster I actually use Eugen and Rackham, and this is more what my main roster is looking like for the game right now. But you know, really try to optimize these characters in terms of their masteries. Try to keep them all up to snuff. So like what I'm working right now is trying to get everyone close to like 20%, give or take, in terms of their masteries, in terms of offense. Then keep defense at like 15 or something like that. And then you just gradually increase that for all of the characters. But yeah, it's fairly important to at least try to optimize around 4 characters, naturally with more power for your main character, but optimize for your other 3 characters that you're playing with, because, you know, from the weapons that you equip on them, from the masteries that you give them, from the sigils that you equip on them, all of that is going to have gameplay implications whenever you are playing solo with your party of 4. So it's really cool to min-max around all of these characters, and it gives you more control over what type of gameplay you're going to be experiencing, and it will increase your performance as well. Now, when it comes to weapon upgrades, it can be tempting for you to just be like, oh, I'm just going to choose my one weapon. Like, for instance, let's say, oh, I'm playing Gran, I want to choose Sword of Eos, and I'm going to really upgrade the crap out of it, and I'm not touching any of the other weapons because I like the traits on this weapon, I like the passives on it, and boom, right? Just going to focus on one. You don't really want to be doing that. In the beginning of the game, sure, focus on one weapon. Don't spread your materials too thin. Get at least one of the weapons for each of the characters that you are playing with, like I said, of your party of 4, and upgrade those. But by the time you start getting to the end game, you actually will want to level up and upgrade all of the weapons for the characters that you care for, because essentially every single weapon is an extension of your masteries. So if you go into masteries, you'll notice that you have offense, defense, and collection. So collection is actually the skills or the masteries that you get from upgrading your weapons. So if you go to Vayne, which is the character that I've been playing the most, you guys can see that I have the Alabarda, and therefore, because I upgraded it to as much as I can right now, it's giving me 200 HP and 500 HP. And a common misconception, at least for me it was when I started playing Granblue Fantasy Relink, is that, oh, I'm only getting these bonuses when I have this weapon equipped. Wrong. Doesn't matter which weapon you have equipped, whenever you upgrade a weapon and it unlocks a mastery, that mastery is always available to you. So just due to the fact that I've upgraded the Alabarda here, that means I'm getting 700 additional HP, regardless of if I'm using the weapon or not. Same thing for the Swan. I have stun power +1 and attack +5, regardless if I'm using this weapon or not. So don't think of, upgrading weapons as kind of like, oh, I only need to upgrade the weapon that I'm using. In a way, yes, that's the most important one for you to upgrade because it dictates your character's stats on a more closely integrated way. But at the same time, you'll want to upgrade other weapons that you unlock along the way as well, because they're going to give you more masteries for your character. But anyway, these are some of the tips that I would call out to your attention that will hopefully help you get started on your journey in Granblue Fantasy Relink, because like I said, right now is actually one of the best times to jump into the game, because if you jump in now, by the time the expansion rolls around, you will have leveled up, done pretty much everything you want to do in the base game, and you will have your save file fully prepared for when the expansion hits in the 9th of July. Now there's a link in the description if you guys want to learn more about Granblue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok, and also you can check out the socials for Granblue Fantasy Relink to keep yourself updated with all the news relevant to Endless Ragnarok. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.